Dr. Mona Nemer, Canada's Chief Science Advisor. Nous sommes heureux d'accueillir avec nous Dr. Mona Nemer, la conseillère scientifique en chef. Welcome to the CSPC 2020, Dr. Nemer.
Hi, Mehrdad. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great tradition to continue.
In a completely different format, obviously, this time around.
Yes, well, grateful for technology.
Yes, that's right. But we are pleased to have you with us. Thank you for accepting this invitation and continuing this tradition. I must tell the story, first of all, that congratulations for reappointment to the position of Chief Science Advisor. And I must tell the story that the first time that you were appointed in this position, if I am not mistaken, please correct me, the first big conference or main conference that you attended was CSPC, and if that was 2017.
Yes, absolutely. And the questions were much easier. I didn't have, a record to defend, only dreams.
Yes, we make it harder based on your experience then, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I'm bracing myself.
That's right. So here again, it's a reappointment of Chief Science Advisor to the position. And maybe this is again the first main conference that you're attending post reappointment. But congratulations. A lot has happened since our interview last year, and you are reappointed to this position. But very straightforward, did you accomplish everything you set out to do in your first term?
Well, of course I did. And that's why now I have nothing, left to do. Seriously. Well, one thing that I managed to do was to survive. So that was good. And, of course, I put together a great team, and, we got on some important things like the science integrity policy, the open science roadmap before we were a little bit derailed by the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think that we can collectively look back at those, 3 years and feel good and proud about what was accomplished.
Right. Your reappointment is a great news, obviously, for the country, for science, especially now that science advice has never been more important. And how has your work changed because of COVID-19? And if there is anything that you had done in your first mandate that helped to prepare you and your team to respond to COVID pandemic?
Well, there are a number of things that were done during the first, I would say, 2.5 years that have certainly helped us navigate these crazy times. If you ask, what has changed, there's like more work than ever before. It's just like unbelievable, intensity and pressure. And I'm so grateful for the team to just like be coming along with me. But in terms of what we did, there are, tangibles and intangibles. On the intangible side, I think building trust and understanding and credibility within government, with the public service, with cabinet, with the prime minister, I think was really important, because you don't have time to build trust, in the midst of a crisis.
That's right.
In terms of the tangibles, when I was first appointed, I went over to the UK to see how their well-functioning system is working, and I had a chance to meet with past and present chief science advisors, and they each told me the story of how their mandate was shaped by the crisis or the emergency that they had to basically manage. So that gave me an early warning that we should perhaps prepare for this. And, fortuitously, 6 months before the pandemic, we had a tabletop exercise on emergency preparedness, science advice for emergency preparedness with the UK and the US colleagues. And as you know, Mehrdad, we had a panel last year at the CSPC on emergency preparedness and science advice. So I can tell you that certainly helped me a great deal, understanding what needs to be done quickly, and appreciating very rapidly that even though it's an emergency that is a health emergency, is going to very rapidly spill over to other areas and we better have the proper groups and experts to advise on a sort of whole of government perspective of the pandemic.
Right.
That was immensely helpful.
Glad to hear that. One of the networks that you have established that was early on in the pandemic is the Can COVID network. Tell us why Can COVID and what has been its impact?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to give credit to two superb departmental science advisors, Karen Tannenbaum and Sarah Gallagher, who actually, did the heavy lifting and managed to set up Can COVID in a record time. But, as we went down this pandemic, it became obvious that we needed coordination. And of course, there were no SARS-CoV-2 experts in the country because the virus didn't exist. We didn't know of it. So we had to cobble experts in virology, immunology, different areas, who quickly also embraced the pandemic and the science needed for this virus. But it was felt all along that we really needed a platform for multidisciplinary collaboration, right, and also to rapidly tap, into expertise to help government in terms of, evidence and policy directions.
Okay, so, and you're happy with the progress of the network so far?
Look, it's, it's over 2,500 people that are signed onto it. Majority academics, but there are also government people and private sector. Right now, Vivek Goel has taken the leadership of the platform, and he has some great plans in terms of different platforms and early things to do. So I'm sure he'll be talking about them during this conference.
Great. You are dealing a lot with science communication, obviously, and I'm wondering, how has misinformation played a role in this pandemic, in your opinion?
Well, as WHO has termed it, we've had two pandemics, one of the virus and the other of information, dubbed infodemics. So it's been a challenge. At a time when you require so much public trust in public health guidelines, in government measures, disinformation and misinformation, is a distraction, but it's also your responsibility to make sure that the information is getting out, in a timely manner. It's getting to the various audiences and groups of public that need to hear it, and they don't all hear it the same way and through the same mechanisms and so on. So it's just like made it much more challenging. It has increased a public interest in science, and I think that puts even, I mean, it's good news, of course, for science. I think it puts even more pressure on us all to engage in a sustained dialogue with the public at all levels.
That's right. Earlier you mentioned about the departmental science advisors. We know that you established a network of federal departmental science advisors, and it is still growing. How have they contributed to your work, and do you feel the network is having an impact?
Yes, definitely. I would say that the network is having an impact, within government departments. People are saying positive things, so that's encouraging for other departments to look into hiring science advisors. Before the pandemic, the science advisors played an important role in the implementation of the science integrity policy in their respective departments. So that was very important. They were instrumental in the development of the Open Science Roadmap, because it was very important to have the perspective from different fields and also from different government departments and, just disciplines in general. So they played a very important role there. In terms of the pandemic itself, of course, the the science advisors in the Public Health Agency and Health Canada were busy, over their heads, and they were extremely, helpful and supportive to me on the various expert committees that we did. But we also had interesting conversations around different, testing methods. So, for example, the testing of virus in the wastewater came from conversations between the environment, the health, the public health science advisors, and Natural Resources Canada. So, you can see things that were not necessarily on the radar of the health department, but, were things that were being done routinely by environmental scientists, also contributed to what we're now doing.
Speaking of research and scientific research and collaboration, as you mentioned, and you are a prominent researcher yourself and witnessed the changes as a result of pandemic, I want to ask you, how has the pandemic changed the way we do science in Canada and around the world?
Well, there are many, many ways, I think, that have changed. I am especially proud of the initiative that I took with my vis-a-vis, internationally in many countries, to ask the scientific publishers to have all the COVID data and research open access. Mm-hmm. And it now seems just like, such a normal thing, but it wasn't. But at the same time, imagine, if we did not have open access, this has benefited greatly policy making, science advisors, other researchers and innovators around the globe. It has made it, more equitable in terms of understanding the virus and the pandemic itself. So I think that's a sort of, I believe, point of no return. And I see changes now among the community, but also the publishers themselves. So I think that's a very important aspect. The other one is the multidisciplinary and collaborative nature. Knowing that we needed to go much faster, that actually the world was literally, waiting to find out about, the science and discovery, I think made people reach out to different collaborators in different countries, in different disciplines, but also across sectors, between public and private sector, government, universities. And that's the reality. That's the reality. It's a one science approach. We need complementarity. We need collaboration. And I hope that too is going to be a point of no return. But it also means that all our systems of funding, of research, institutional, are going to have to adapt as well to this reality.
And as a follow-up question into that, with respect to international research collaborations, how they have changed and how useful they have been at this time?
Well, again, I have seen international, collaborations been, extremely important and helpful at all levels. Personal relations of research, of collaborators. When you start getting into procurement of vaccines, into getting information ahead of time about, therapies that work, that don't, diagnostic tests that are as good as the, makers claim they are. So I think these relationships have been extremely important and helpful for the country and for the citizens. But, moving forward, what I'm seeing also is even more desire from collaborators internationally to work with Canada. At many levels, institutionally, in terms of major research facilities, in terms of sharing know-how, mobility, etc. So interestingly enough, as we traveled less, people have had time, to reflect on international collaborations and on their value. And I think, in most cases, the answers have been that, we need them more than ever.
Right. And on the same subject, we know that you have done an enormous amount of work to promote science diplomacy. How do you think Canada rank, where we are with respect to use of science in advancing diplomacy? Are we doing enough of using science to advance diplomacy, in your opinion?
Look, the candid answer is no. We're not using enough our assets, for to benefit us and our country and our economy even. So right now, I think that countries that have fewer bragging rights in terms of science are doing better than us in terms of using the science in their international relations, in their to advance their priorities, their national and international priorities. So I think that there is a lot of room for improvement. I'm I'm satisfied in a way that many important people in government are seeing the value and the importance of science diplomacy. I'm not saying that they weren't seeing it, but I think, one of the things in this pandemic that they've seen that actually we're even more dependent, right, internationally, and that we have things to offer to the world in terms of talent, in terms of discoveries, in terms of, stable economy, everything, else that is important for science diplomacy. So I'm very hopeful that once, we get over this pandemic, that we're going to be making some interesting, I think, advances in terms of using science for the interests of the country.
Great. One of the exciting projects for us as members of the community has been the Youth Council. You have recently created a Youth Council to advise you on issues relevant to young people. What activities are they engaged in?
Yes, I have a wonderful youth council, and recruitment is not an exact science, and we had so many great applications, but I couldn't be happier with the group that we have right now. I'm sorry that they came on board in February and they were hit right away with the pandemic, but they've been a great voice to give us the perspective of young people. From the get-go, at a time when we didn't necessarily think how young people may be affected in the summer, may be affected in their programs, in their internships, etc. So I think they've been a great voice to bring that perspective, but they've also embraced the issue and the challenge of diversity in science. And also that of science communication. So they're doing several roundtables during CSPC, and they're just like a great dynamic group. I learn from them every time that we have a Zoom meeting together.
Great, and I must add that the Youth Council has a panel at CSPC 2020, and please participate on that panel, this discussion, and listen to these wonderful young people who are presenting their insights on the matters of science and policy. And we are very pleased to have them hosted at the CSPC. You mentioned the women issue and the diversity. I want to know, I know that you are a great champion of diversity in science, and but it seems that the pandemic has made the issue of promoting diversity much more urgent. Have women in science been disproportionately affected by COVID-19, in your opinion?
Well, it's not just in my opinion. It's actually surveys after surveys that have shown that women are shouldering a much greater proportion of the work at home, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's looking after family members, from children to parents. So I have to say that was a little bit of a surprise, not a happy one. You would have thought that being able to work from home, would make it easier in terms of managing your time and so on, but it has been the opposite. There are fewer publications that are authored by women. There are fewer applications for grants from women. And in Canada, we're actually blessed with having great female voices that we hear from during the pandemic. It's not the case in most countries, and even Western countries around the world. So I think it's given us some sober second thoughts in terms of everything that we have put in place to support equal opportunity really for male and female. And evidently we still have some ways to go.
And this is, I guess this is, for us in the scientific community, is extremely important matter, this issue for women and also other minorities. And I am wondering, since you are dealing and discussing with a number of stakeholders, in particular at high level of the government, is this issue coming up and you taken seriously? As I said, it's very important for all of us. We want to make sure it's being dealt with serious and utmost attention. Is that the case?
Well, I can say yes, it is the case. Diversity and inclusiveness is a top priority for the government. It is a top priority for the granting councils. Okay. For one thing, we're collecting better data. We're looking at data to inform us in terms of the actions. So the attention is there. I think what we need to start doing more of is ask the questions, along the entire career path. Where is the problem? And the problem may not be at the same place in all disciplines. In fact, it's not at the same place for different visible minorities. Some are more present at the level of profs, some are more present at the level of students, and some are absent even at the level of undergraduate students in certain STEM fields. So I think granularity is going to be important if we really want to have some sustainable solutions to the problem.
Okay. Since your mandate has been renewed, I want to ask you, what will you focus on over the next 2-3 years as you carry out your second term as Chief Science Advisor?
Well, look, there's just so much work to be done, and like the COVID pandemic has shown us, there's not much use in over planning. This being said, there should be some priorities, and we definitely have a few that we're going after. To start off, I just want to remind everyone what I said the first day I was appointed, that my top priority is to make sure that I am the first in a long list of uninterrupted science advisors. So I really think that we need to make sure that the position is on good ground, that it's part of the country, of the fiber of the country, of science and of government. And I really hope that I'm gonna see this come to fruition in the 2 coming years. Open science, I think the implementation of open science is complex. It's not difficult, but it's complex, and having harmonization across the different sectors, government, universities, the provinces are in there as well. So I think that it's going to be quite a bit of work, but we can do it, and I think we should do it as well. The other thing that's going to happen, we are going to get over COVID. Okay, there's no question about this. It's a question of when, but we need to plan the post-COVID. The post-COVID is, you hear governments here in Canada and everywhere across the globe talking about, rebuilding and rebuilding better. Well, in rebuilding better, there is a huge space for science and technology, for that matter, for research and development. And I think that having a roadmap for the country in terms of science and technology is something that can help everyone. It can help support the industry. It can help, support research, innovation. And I look very much forward to working with everyone in achieving an inspiring SNT roadmap for the country.
And very much looking forward to that and your presence at our future events. My last question goes to about CSPC. I want to ask your opinion and what do you think about the CSPC contribution to the community with the annual conferences and virtual sessions? We have expanded quite a lot, in terms of workshops. We just delivered the science workshops to science policy fellows of MyTax and obviously the Science Meets Parliament, which is in partnership with your office. And how do you see the contribution?
Yeah.
The contribution
you're doing so many things, Mehrdad. I have trouble keeping up with everything that's going on. No, seriously, and I should have mentioned, Science Meets Parliament as one of my I would say happiest achievement of the office in partnership with yourself and your organization. But evidently, CSPC is not only filling, a gap, but is contributing, I would say, to maintaining the dialogue between science and policy. I think it's, opened the eyes and encourage scientists to engage in public dialogue, and that's very important. Things we don't think about a lot maybe is the fact that people at CSPC don't all come from the same disciplines, right? So you have environmental scientists, you have microbiologists, you have chemists, you have physicists, engineers, you have government people, you have private sector. And I think this dialogue, and we mentioned it before in terms of how science is being conducted, interdisciplinarity, intersectoral collaboration, and dialogue and understanding are going to be extremely important, even more important, I would say, in the years ahead. So, kudos to CSPC for its contribution to moving the needle on this.
Thank you very much for kind words, and we are very happy, honored, and pleased to have close collaboration with your office on various things, including the Science Meets Parliament, which is a shared project, and hopefully we can continue this in future. With that, I want to thank you, Dr. Nemer, Canada's Chief Science Advisor, for being with us yet in another format, but this year, and look forward to have you physically in the conference in future.
Thank you. And Mehrdad, I want to thank you and thank the entire research community in Canada for their incredible support to the office, and also for really rolling up their sleeves and agreeing to be part of so many advisory groups and task forces. It's a momentous job, and I'm just so grateful, so deeply grateful for all the help that I'm getting from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I must add that Dr. Nemer is participating in a number of panel sessions at the conference. Please make sure you attend those and listen to the discussions and conversation. And with that, I want to thank you and bonne conférence.
Merci. Au revoir.
Bye.